absolutely think there is a role for local boards to be consulting and engaging the different groups that are pertinent to what they're doing in their local area, and I think that's really important. What these panels are doing are looking to get strategic advice from these panels, and I mean that's what I'm hoping for, that it doesn't get down into the local, because we want advice that informs our decisions at a regional level, and so I think there is room for both. Secondly, with the youth, and it just shows you, there are actually 21 places on the youth, so none of you have even worked that one out. You've just copied. No, you haven't, because you've all said 20. So it's actually 21 because there's 21 local boards. It's just that we had a vacancy. My concern around keeping 21 is that everyone's saying, oh, it's got to be geographical. None of the other boards are geographical except for rural. And the reason being that we're looking for strategic views, not local views, and that's why I think that what's really important to get local views from youth is to strengthen our youth panel or youth councils at the local board level, but every local board has a different view on that. So some are well resourced, some are not. So I would really ask that at the local level, that's where our youth, there can be more of them, there could be 10 people on a youth council at a local board level, and they can deal with the specific issues for those youth in that particular geographical area. I think that's really helpful because it's often around placemaking, at a local level. So I think that's really good, and I hope that the local boards equally take on that. Secondly is sitting around the table with our youth advisory panel for the last 3 years, what you notice is it's not really divided up into geographical views. It's very much similar views from all of them, no matter which part of the region they come from. They're the sort of top issues: transport, housing, events, things to, those sorts of things. Getting to education. They're not geographical for the most part. They're actually strategic, and I think that you could easily have the 10 pulled from there, and if you really, because actually we've got Great Barrier in Waiheke, and there's a huge cost to get those kids back and forward as well. But I mean, you could actually set it up that you did make sure that you got the kind of idiosyncratic sort of almost things that we have, like real remoteness from Barrier. Maybe you could have someone from there. You could have your 2 rural, and then the rest of them are pulled from wider Auckland, because I think what it comes down to, it is finding some people that are willing to put the time in, because a lot of our panel members didn't come, so you would hardly ever have a full complement. So, and the other thing around the table was that it was really difficult to have those conversations with such a big group. So for me, I think we should try to do it by 10 or maybe 12, something like that, because you're going to have, because what they tend to get down to is the local issues around this table, and that's not what they're here for. So for me, I can't support 20, because I think that we can get better outcomes for youth informing our policy governing body, and we can get better outcomes locally for youth councils with their local boards. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Denise Lee.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm not foreshadowing anything, you might be pleased to know, but I am a little bit becoming more predisposed to the idea of delaying something today, given the really wide and varied comments that are starting to emerge. Some detailed comments on numbers on a certain panel and general comments about panels. I'm probably agnostic, I have to say, about the number on the Youth Advisory Panel, but can see some merit in what's being said so far. I was the liaison councillor for the ethnic panel for these last 3 years, and would wholeheartedly agree with the Martin Jenkins report when it talked about inefficiency. I'm not sure about ineffective. I'm not prepared to say that about the panel that I was involved in. Fantastic people, just incredibly fantastic people, and I think we'd all say that about the panel members. but we haven't got this right, and that's exactly what the Martin Jenkins report has highlighted. So I'm quite wary of doing the same thing again with tweaks and not starting or choosing from this point forward to look at the other options that they've outlined and then adding the local board component that has emerged today. So I would really like to see that word may become will in recommendation C, that it will be appropriate for us to look at a different model as I'm tweaking what we've got now could be, I think, problematic. We've sat through what has been requested of panel members and that strategic advice, but it's so varied in the outcome of that. So look, we'll see how things go on and whether the amendment to delay gets some legs. But I'm not sure this is something that we should rush. Can someone clarify for me, we didn't institute these panels immediately at the beginning of the last term, did we? I seem to recall.
Previously, the governing body endorsed the panel structure in December 2013, and the panels was set up in April 2015.
And April after the selection process had been undertaken, or?
After December, the selection process was set up, and all the members were appointed by April 2015.
Okay.
So.
14.
14,
yeah.
excuse me.
Just wondering about the benefits of a delay to get this right.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Last speaker, Councillor Hills.
Woo.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Casey is the last speaker.
Through Mayor Goff. Well, I guess, first of all, if there is an amendment to delay and the council wants to delay it, I wonder if there's any point continuing the discussion. But since that's my speaking turn, I'll speak on it anyway. I think there is some potential value in maybe delaying just to knot out some of these issues, but I don't want to create a whole lot more time and reports and things. So I'm not sure how that process works, if it goes to a workshop and we discuss it, or yeah, I'm not exactly sure how that will work. But around the youth advisory panel is my main. I'm very supportive of the panels as they are. I think the people on them do some great work, and we get some really good ideas coming out for the region on many issues. The youth advisory panel, I do have some concerns, and I have been talking to the officers present over the last few days, and Councillor Casey and Councillor Collins around the numbers. I still have some concerns. I am aware that it's different, but I think it is different. We have youth panels in every local board, or some form of youth engagement board or whatever in every local board area. I think we do have a massive issue with youth engagement and engagement with younger people across the city, and how we can get, and what Councillor Cooper said, it seems like the boards do discuss, the youth advisory panel does discuss the major issues. I am concerned at how you get a good spread. Yes, it's on competency and whatever the backgrounds are, but do you then start splitting up via, north, south, east, west, and then if you want to fit Māori in there, and then do you have rural in there, and how do we make sure the mix is right? And the mix is probably never going to be right that way, but I do feel the local board, putting forward a person from a local board area does at least have an obvious representation that, but yeah, I struggle with, I understand the terms, and if the cost is larger for 21, then, I'm happy to support Councillor Kathy Casey's 15, but I do have some real concerns that down to 10, how you get a good spread across the region. And you really are taking the views of where those young people are, their views into regional decisions around transport, around the strategic things for Auckland. So, yeah, I do have concerns. Even down to 15, I've still got concerns.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Casey, to finish up.
Yeah, Just to say that I'm not sure what's happened between the last governing body and this one, but the last governing body, it was, can we get them up and running by Christmas? And nobody's even asked about the timeline. The timeline is such that if we're going to do this properly, we have to start now to get them up and running for March, or at least the induction started in March, to have them up and running by April. So we start now, we do it in-house. This is the selection process. We're taking it in-house to make sure that we get to all the proper communities. So we've got 3 months to do that. So we get access to the best people for the best job. And I loved the panels. I thought, you know, okay, we can do better. We've got new terms of reference. I have no fear of the panels. And I have to point out that there has always been a political strand in opposition to this. So noted. So no, I don't have any need to on and do. I'm very happy to look at the numbers on the youth panel. It's a big jump from 21 down to 10, and that's why the middle ground is 15. But the point is to move away from geographical representation, because Martin Jenkins said that did not happen. That's what and the local boards have been consulted. Everybody's been consulted on this. There has been input throughout. I think you mentioned 80 different people inputted into it. So yes, the youth panel, as long as we get away from the idea that the members are going back to report, and they're not. No other panel works like that. You are selected for your lived experience, your life skills, and your network. And you're there on your own, in your own right, to give us strategic advice about how to better speak to our diverse communities. Now, why would we not do this now? I mean, Councillor Collins had the worst experience imaginable. Our response to that is, let's get cracking on diversity. That's what this is about. It's about how do we better communicate with our diverse groups. We use those panels to tell us how to do it. Get them up and running by Christmas, I say.
Thank you very much, Councillor Casey. So if I can just sum up for councillors, we've got 3 amendments foreshadowed. And the first, in the name of Al Filipina, would be to that the number of youth, I've got it on my screen here, agree the composition remain at 20, 1 from each local board area. Do you want to amend that to 21?
Well, and just clarification on that, because we were told by our staff that the reason it's currently at 20 is because Great Barrier Island did not wish to put a member on there. Can I seek clarification?
Well, let's get clarification of that, just so
Yes,
we know
please.
what the amendment will
No,
read.
it's not like they didn't, but there wasn't any youth voices at that time. So they are in a process of developing their own youth council.
if
So
that's
I'll
the
take it
case-
that your number should be 21,
Yes,
Alf.
yes.
Okay, so let me just foreshadow. So clarify what the amendments are. The first amendment would be to set the number of youth advisory panel members at 21. The second amendment, which would be in the name of Kathy Casey, would be to set the number at 15. And the third amendment...
Up to 15.
Up to 15. I'm sorry, the third amendment by Councillor Simpson. Why don't I read it, then I'll get it absolutely right. Defer a decision on the setup of the demographic advisory panels for 2016-19 until discussion has taken place with local boards.
Excuse me, Your Worship. I'm happy to alter that last one for for speed, for 1 month, bearing in mind we're meeting with local boards next week. So I'm happy to defer a decision
For 1 month?
for a maximum of a month.
For a maximum of a month until discussion. Okay.
To be fair,
So
I think that one should come before you decide on the makeup.
I think we can work out the easiest ones are on numbers. The last one, I wanted to just speak briefly on it. The numbers, you'll make a decision on what number each of you think is appropriate. On the question of deferral, we've had 2.5 years of experience with these local boards, or you have, I haven't. A decision was made to do a thorough review through Martin Jenkins, and that review has taken place. It may not be to everybody's liking, and I defer to the expertise on methodology to Councillor Collins, but they've done a job. They've been paid to do a job, they've done a job, they've made recommendations, and what we added in my office was the third of those, which is that it may be appropriate to consider a different model for engaging with diverse communities at the end of the term. We've got some recommendations that have been consulted, that have been researched, that I understood from previous governing bodies there was wide support for. And as I went around the city, the message I was getting from people, frankly, was that the panels were important and they didn't want a vacuum. Now, even if we defer for 1 month, that's not deferring the setting up of the panels for 1 month. It's deferring it through till probably April next year, it would be my guess. So you've got to make a decision. If you feel that you don't have enough information to make a decision now, you will vote for Councillor Simpson's amendment. If you think that we have enough information, let's give it a go, and we have the option of our experience in this term to come up with a different model. If with the changes it hasn't worked to your satisfaction, we can do it. But my preference is not to delay and not to leave a vacuum, but that's up to each member of council individually. So let me put the amendments in the order that I've received them. We've got the amendment moved by Councillor Filipaina, seconded by Councillor Newman. Agree that the composition of members of the Youth Advisory Panel remain at 21, one from each local board area. So I want to put that amendment. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary?
No.
Okay, we better have a show of hands on that one, please. Those in favour say aye. Oh, just put their hands up. Okay, those against, obviously that is carried, and that would in normal circumstances make the second amendment redundant. So I won't need to put that amendment, looking to my advisors that
Don't need the second.
don't need to put it?
Don't need the second.
Okay. Okay, so we move on to the last remaining amendment.
I'm happy to second, oh, sorry.
I'll second that.
It's
By
seconded
division.
on the last amendment? Yep. Okay. And so let me, if I can just remove that from my screen, thank you, and so I can read the amendment, because I can't read it from this angle. The amendment moved by Councillor Simpson, seconded by Councillor Fletcher, defer a decision for a maximum of 1 month on the setup of the demographic advisory panels for the 2016-2019 term until discussion has taken place with local boards. So I'll ask for the names to be read out.
Mayor Goff.
No.
Councillor Casey.
No.
Deputy Mayor Cashmore.
No.
Councillor Clow.
No.
Councillor Collins.
No.
Councillor Cooper.
What are we doing? Deferring it? No, no.
Councillor Darby.
No.
Councillor Filipaina.
Against.
Councillor Fletcher.
Yes.
Councillor Hills.
No.
Councillor Holtz.
Against.
Councillor Denise Lee.
For?
Councillor Mike Lee.
No.
Councillor Newman.
No.
Councillor Quacks.
Yes.
Councillor Sayers.
Against.
Councillor Simpson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Sir John Walker.
No.
Councillor Wayne Walker.
No.
Councillor Watson.
No.
So that is lost.
That is lost.
5 to 16.
Five votes to 16 against. Okay, thank you, councillors, for that.